We're good, Kate.
Mr. Chair?
Great. Thanks, Kate. Go ahead and call the roll.
Mr. Stefanko?
Here.
Mr. Sokol?
Here.
Mr. Marquis?
Here.
Mr. Krasansky?
Here.
Secretary of State Rosado?
Here.
Wonderful. And Mr. Corcoran, Mr. Chair, is not present. We'll try and join at a later time, but we do have a quorum of the board. We can proceed.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. First item on the agenda is approval of a proxy designation for Secretary Rosado to appoint James W. Leary as her designee to the board. Call for a motion in a second, but just wanted to thank Mark Addison for his service to the board. Always great to have him here and provided a lot to the board, and like I said, greatly appreciated. But I will, and we can go on and do other discussion on this point afterwards. I'll call for a motion.
Chairman, I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Thanks, Peter. Thank you, Charlie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Secretary Rosado, do you have anything to add?
I want to also thank Mark for his service. I have a bunch of boards that I have to, so I rotate them through my staff, but also I do intend to be on this call, except that I don't control my calendar, so Jim will be my backup, and he's just wonderful. He's a wonderful surrogate on any board, and so I thank him also for agreeing to do this. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Secretary. Okay. We'll move now to a motion for approval of the draft minutes from the February 11, 21 board meeting.
I can make that motion.
Thank you, Roger. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Vita. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed that I heard. I have nothing to report at this time, so we'll move right to Joe for the President's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good day, board members, colleagues, those joining us today. I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome Jim Leary as the Secretary's designee. I know Jim well, and Jim is not just a dedicated public servant, but if there is someone that you want in your corner, I don't know who else you would want other than Jim Leary. And I'm honored always to be working with Secretary Rosado, and I'm looking forward to working with Jim. I miss you both terribly, so this is a good opportunity to see you and know that you are there. So thank you. The EFC 2021 initiative is driving forward, as we've discussed. I'll ask staff to put up the org chart. As you know, we announced we'd be undertaking a reorganization that will focus on our people, our processes, our partnerships, and our performance. So as you'll see in the org chart, it shows a more simplified, nimble organization, I hope, that's rooted in practicality, but more importantly, in accountability, while building on our much-needed management capacity to better position ourselves to carry out our mission and achieve our goals in today's world. To that end, I'm happy to discuss one of the people component of the new organization, and I'm truly happy to introduce Heather Grohl as our Chief Administrative Officer and Senior Vice President. Heather joined us on March 4th and is leading the new Division of Administration and Corporate Operations, which, as you see, will include the new and existing business units of Information Technology, a reconstituted Communications Operation, Human Resources, Government Relations, Support Services, and our new Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Heather joins us with over 15 years of government management experience, having served as a member of the executive team at OGS for over 11 years, most recently as Deputy Commissioner for Communications, a title which does not provide for the full appreciation of the significant leadership role that Heather has played for well over a decade. Heather has been integral to all major decisions, effectuation of policy, every emergency and difficult assignment OGS was charged with managing for this administration. In addition to overseeing all agency communication in the state's Enterprise Digital and Media Services Center. Previously, Heather had served as Director of Media Relations and Public Affairs for the State Division of Parole and as a Special Assistant to the Superintendent and Spokesperson for the Buffalo City Public School System, a system of over 34,000 students. Prior to joining state service, Heather worked in public affairs for several private firms in Albany and her native city, Buffalo. I could not really be happier that Heather is joining us to bolster our team. Heather is one of the finest public servants I've had the opportunity to serve with in over a quarter century. Heather, welcome. Thank you for continuing your service to the people of New York with us here at EFC. I'll ask if we could take the organizational chart down. Heather?
Good morning. I'm very honored to meet the distinguished board today. Unfortunately, we can't meet in person. I hope that we'll be able to do that soon. But as President Rubito said, we are very looking forward to serving the people of the state of New York and helping them manage clean water and drinking water here for the people of New York State.
Heather has jumped in and is leading the charge for how we are planning how EFC will operate and function in a post-pandemic world and whatever the new normal is. So we are undertaking that, and that is well on the way in addition to all the additional assignments and responsibilities I've given Heather. We will be conducting, not having the pleasure of having my staff with me much of the time. It has been difficult to get to know them, but more importantly, I think it's difficult for them to get to know me and my expectations. The vision crafted with will be the great input from the board. So to that end, we are going to hold a all-staff town hall virtually soon, and hopefully a collegial environment with an opportunity to get to know me better, for me to articulate what I'm asking of the team, and to answer any questions, comments, suggestions. I want to take thoughts and ideas. Just really open up the doors and open up our arms to the team in this difficult time. So that is imminent. I'd like to take the opportunity during my report to thank the staff for all their effort as we move through this transition and prepare us for the future. I am asking a lot of them. I am asking a lot of them every day, and they are delivering. And I couldn't appreciate that more. I'll leave it if the board has any questions or comments. But on two notes, one, thank them. Thank you all for your continued support. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't make a personal note during these very difficult times here in New York State. We are not without empathy and pain for others, but we have a duty to serve and carry out the people's business. And in our corner of the world here, I want the board to be assured that we are doing that at EFC. And in the absence, again, of any questions, I'll be glad to answer anything or take any comments, of course. But again, just to thank you for your work and the support that we have and the support that we're going to need going forward. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Joe. I appreciate that. That's well said. Welcome, Heather. Great to have you on board. It's obviously looking forward to getting downstairs, meet in person, hopefully soon. If there's anything you need, please don't hesitate to reach out or come upstairs. I'm here 4 days a week. But again, open it up to the rest of the members if there's anything you want to add or questions you have for Joe or Heather.
I'll just say welcome, Heather.
Thank you
Welcome
so
your
much.
position.
Thanks, Vita. Okay. Next item, we have no committee. We didn't have any committee meetings today. Those start up again next month. No unfinished business, so we'll move right to resolutions. Kate, start with number 1, please.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation amending the prior authorizations for financial assistance to be provided by the corporation to certain recipients in connection with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund.
Thank you, Kate. Can I have a motion, please?
I can make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Roger. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Audra, please.
Thank you. We have 4 projects, amendments, and extensions on this resolution. Let me go through them briefly. The first is for the town of Boston in Saratoga County. They're working on their wastewater collection system and pump station. So 2 things we're doing with this, their costs have increased, so we need some additional financing to be added. And also, since we're coming back for additional financing, even though the project does not mature until 2022, we need some additional time, so we figured bring everything back at once to you. So we want to extend out until 2023. Project costs have increased by several million. They do have a $5 million WQIP grant that we will be pre-financing for them, so that gives them some relief there. We've currently dispersed about $3.5 million so far, so the project is moving along, but the original schedule has been delayed out until 2023. Also, you're going to see this in a later resolution that I believe Tim will speak to. We need additional authorization for the WIA. At the time the project first came to us, it didn't qualify for the full award. Now with the project cost increase, they do, so we want to look to give them that little additional WIA grant. That's Boston. The second project on this is the Village of Dundee in Yates County, working on a wastewater treatment plant and collection system improvements. This one, we have a funding increase and a modification of the project scope. So we're amending to include additional scope. It's detailed in the little fact sheet that's included, but it's installation of effluent filtration to meet new permit limits, construction of a septic receiving station, and construction of mechanical sludge dewatering and composting facilities. We are adding additional interest-free financing to the financing package, and these increased costs are due to the increased scope here. We've dispersed just a little less than $1 million so far on this, but we have been dispersing on a regular basis, so it's moving forward. And I just wanted to mention that this project, when we originally closed it in 2019, was the first financing that we had done with the Village of Dundee, so it was a new borrower for us, which I think is good news. All right, third project, Village of Scotia in Schenectady County, wastewater pump station improvements. And we need to provide additional funding to finance this project. We're adding additional market rate financing. It originally closed in 2019, and when bids were open, all of the costs came in varying degrees higher than they had originally estimated when they had moved forward with the project. So they can complete some of the work with the financing they have, but it's not going to take them through everything at this point. So we're adding the additional money. Currently, we've dispersed about $625,000 on this. And the fourth and last project on this is an extension for Westchester County. This particular project is for the Yonkers Sewer District. We're seeking authorization here for a 90-day maturity extension, which is something a little bit different than we've brought to you before. This project has been around for quite a while, several years. You've seen it before, but there's been a lot of ongoing delays due to the county trying to procure easements. So, you know, we've seen it before, we've extended it a few times, and at this point, you know, we really wanted to know, will the project move forward? So we had some discussions with the county and agreed that, you know, 90 days more to see if they can get the easements. They're working on it. They believe that 90 days is fair. So we're going to go 90 days. If they can get the easements, we'll come back to you, and, you know, they'll move ahead with the project. If it can't happen, then, you know, this agreement will expire and they will come back when they have the easements and are ready. And I've spoken with the county personally. They're very agreeable to this plan, but that's why you're seeing this sort of a little different time period than we've come to you with before. And that is the 4 projects on ID number 1.
Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Vita.
So I know I ask this at every board meeting that we have increases on,
Yeah.
and I see 2, forget the delay one, I understand Westchester, so I'm speaking to the other 3, of which 2 don't have scope changes and 1 does, or do I have that opposite? Yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah, so, again, I'm looking at the dates of the engineering report. I'm seeing what has caused, and in which some cases are significant, if not more than double, increases. Are we getting to the bottom? I'd like to see all of these extensions in some kind of category. Is it that our materials have increased? Because, you know, materials are a substantial part of it, and if materials cost more, well, you know, is that it? Is it that they weren't scoped properly?
Vita,
I
I think.
want to put that on the engineering firm. Excuse me, I want to finish. Is it that, you know, that the scope has changed because they found something in the field? Is it that the engineering came a little bit lower? I'd like to see some kind of analytics, you know, on why we are increasing these, and it's so much more frequent than in the past number of years.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. Vita, I'll take a cut at the answer, and then I'll offer Tim the opportunity from the engineering side. Here's what I could tell you, what I've found in the 2 months that I've been here. I am wholly dissatisfied on the issues that you are addressing. I'm asking the same questions, and I'm getting answers developed. I'm not satisfied on our role in driving projects to completion. I do not believe we are doing enough. I'm of the opinion, in my experience, that much of that can be addressed on the front end of the projects. How we go about the pre-development, if you will, the pre-financing, if you will. What is our role? What role do we choose to take versus what role do we take? That is part of when I talk about our processes and how I'm seeking to change them. Now, you all have been on the board longer than I've been in this seat. So I'm glad these questions are being asked. I'm now asking them. I don't have answers for you because I know just enough right now to make me dangerous. What I can tell you is it's on the top of my list, and I've yet to be satisfied with the answers that I'm getting. Increased costs for materials. I get it. Poor bidding. I get it. Poor management at the pre-development side. I say management, Vita, I'm using air quotes. Are we managing it? Right? Are we an infrastructure development agency that provides financing, or are we just a financing organization? Because there are two different approaches. So I don't know what our identity is to this point. I know what our identity is going to be going forward. If you all don't like what I'm going to change this organization into, then you can get rid of me and bring someone else in. But I have the same questions. Now that's putting the team on the defensive. That's okay, right? We're stewards of these resources. We have an obligation to do them in the most effective manner we can. That is our goal. I'm assuming it's a variety of things, but much of them lie here. Why do they lie here? They are the resources we are charged with using to effectuate the goals and missions. We are not just stakeholders, right? We are principals until the project is complete. That's how I see it. That's how you all are going to see how we go forward. I'll be glad to have Tim take a shot going into the weeds from a technical standpoint on those issues. Tim?
Yeah, I'm gonna need a bushwhacker on that one. The points, Vita, that you made are, spot on. We're seeing cost increases as well on different projects. I've had my engineers reach out to consultants just to try and get a feel for what's happening, to get ready for Joe's questions that he's rightfully put forward. And I believe he's right, that it is a combination of things. I think with WIA, we put a lot more project on the street. So right there, you're not going to have as many contractors out there. So you got a supply and demand issue. Our projects is the delay between the cost estimate and when they're bidding too long, right? Because that can also affect things. Material prices have gone up, but that's only part of it. So we're trying to get our hands around it. We don't have our hands around it yet. Obviously, there's a lot of parts here. To Joe's point about trying to get things moving quicker, I think will help shrink that gap between when you have that engineering report and we make that loan to when you're going to start putting your contracts down the street. That'll shrink any the cost creep that we see through the engineering news record, right? That does an annual review of what the cost of projects are. I don't think I can tell you at the local level, they're not happy about having a loan, doing a bond resolution, and only to find out after they've advertised it that it's going to cost them more. It results in these types of delays because they don't immediately jump at saying, hey, yeah, let's borrow more money. So it does create a stall. There is no fixed price for construction, right? You still have to go into the marketplace. So that's the control that we do not have on the market to get the cost certainty that I believe most people would like us to have, or that unfortunately we don't.
Tim,
Yeah.
do you foresee, kind of finding the categories that we just named off and kind of putting some of these into those categories so we can see those trends, whether it's...
Yeah, I think it's worth trying to get some metrics behind, to your point, how much of a cost increase is related to a delay? How much is related to a material cost increase? How ready are the consultants when they put the project on the street? If the plans and specs are not as detailed as they should be, the contractor's going to put in a bigger price because they say that, well, the design is not as final as it should be. So these things, I don't have answers to them. I've got a lot of theory about how things could. We've been sounding things out. We're trying to get to the bottom of it, but again, it's an open marketplace. companies bid, and it's not a perfect science, unfortunately.
Could you tell me on the village of Dundee in Yates County, that is, that one has a scope change, right? What drove that scope change?
To me or to Audra?
Well, I don't know, because I'm not really sure I see in the write-up, and it could be me, because there was an amended engineering report, but in the summary, it says, I thought it said Dundee had a scope change.
Yes, it did. Hang on, I'm just looking to see.
A change could be driven by, we found something in the field. DEC required an additional regulations change. We had a reopener on what we're treating. There's so many reasons.
I'm looking at the last.
Tim,
I'm
this
looking
one
at the
is,
last paragraph in the summary, and it
Yeah.
talks about the project financing being amended for additional scope to include effluent filtration to meet nutrient limits of ammonia and phosphorus. They decided to construct a septic receiving station for pumping out septic tanks, because that can help a municipality with an additional revenue source, as long as they have the treatment capacity. And then they decided to handle their sludge differently through mechanical dewatering and composting to reduce
Yeah, I see it
operating
now.
costs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so, it can meet new permit requirements. So see, that explains things.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen all the time, but when a community comes to us and closes the financing, that doesn't lock down when DEC can start working on that community's permit. And we have at times experienced that after a report has been sent to us, that we'll get an amendment because DEC is working on the permits through a particular cycle on a schedule that may not be the same as what the community was expecting. I'll say for disinfection, DEC's been pushing disinfection onto treatment plants into permits for the last 5 years. So that's why you'll see many of those projects, and you'll see one of them today in ID number 2. When it comes to nutrient removal, Yates County is, not sure where, if it's in the Seneca watershed. So protecting that lake is important, and as a result, the DEC has been putting at least ammonia limits on all permits in fresh water. But where water quality concerns are more threatened, they'll then impose full nutrient removal, including nitrogen and phosphorus. So that doesn't always line up, unfortunately. We'll get a report, we'll get a cost estimate, the permit changes, and then we'll have to come in, and the community's like, well, I've got the contractor mobilized, can I, we want to add the work while we already got them mobilized. So we're going to do a change order and add additional scope.
I'll add, there's a soft spot, and if you go back to the reorganization of what we're doing, partnerships is one of the things we're focusing on, Vita. And that primary partnership, right, is with our brothers and sisters at DEC. There's a soft spot there. There's a coordination soft spot there. There's a balance problem there. It'll be when we recruit and appoint a COO who will be managing the programs, the engineering as a whole. It will be that strategic work that that person will be diving into. So I think what you've brought up are the highlights of why we need to do what we're doing going forward as it relates to, I talk about the ethos, how we do business, how we conduct ourselves to achieve our goals. That's it. So what I would ask is keep asking, keep pushing us, but just know that solution is on the way. We had issues, right, on the admin side. There were holes there were problems there. We have technology obstacles. We had no communications. We have no government relations. We had no diversity inclusion. We recruited Heather. Heather's diving in as an officer of this corporation and a leader. We'll be doing that as well on the engineering side, on the meat and potatoes of this organization. So keep doing it. Just know it's being addressed. Okay?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Anything further on item number 1? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
I'm going to abstain. I would vote yay on Westchester and Dundee, but I'm going to, if we could not, I'm going to abstain on Boston and Scotia. I'm sorry, but that's my position. Thank you.
Okay, just make note of that.
Noted?
Okay. Item number 2.
Certainly, and just before I read the resolution, I did want to note that Mr. Corcoran appears to have joined us via phone. And Francis, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Item number 2, a resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation making certain determinations and authorizing certain actions in connection with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund.
Welcome, Francis. Could I have a motion, please?
I can make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Roger.
I'll second.
Thank you, Vita. Tim, please.
Good morning. Before the board are 5 projects, all short-term financing for a combined amount of just over $29.4 million. 2 communities are qualified for hardship. 3 of the project scopes involve treatment plant work, 2 in the collection system. 1 is the subject of DEC enforcement, and 1 project began with an engineering planning grant. They get through them individually. Town of Rockland in Sullivan County, the Livingston Manor Wastewater Treatment Plant. To a discussion we just had earlier, DEC modified their speedies permit to require disinfection. So they are installing a UV ultraviolet light disinfection system to comply with their bacteria limits, so they can meet that in a way that also protects aquatic habitat, because that's a Class C trout stream. Began with an engineering planning grant that was awarded in 2018 for $1,193,158. Next 3 projects are with Westchester County, all either at the Yonkers treatment plant or within the Yonkers collection system. First project is the North Yonkers pump station, the largest pump station that feeds into the Yonkers Joint Treatment Plant. It's a pump station that pumps 70 million gallons a day directly to the treatment plant. That pump station has been in existence for an extended period of time, at least 40 years. The grid system has to be replaced so they can protect the equipment and the pumps downstream of that wastewater from excessive wear and tear. They're going to be putting in new influence slide gates, bar screens, and grit removal equipment. They're also doing electrical instrumentation and structural upgrades so they can continue to meet their limits. The project is a $10,050,880 subsidized financing. Second project, the next 2 projects are at the Westchester County Treatment Plant. First is Bulkhead Rehabilitation. The Yonkers Joint Treatment Plant actually juts out a bit into the Hudson River. So when they built it, they had to build a bulkhead to protect the structural integrity of the shoreline. They've been periodically making improvements to that since the treatment plant's been in existence since the 1970s. This is they've done the first two phases previously. This is for phases 3 and 4. It's a $8,183,070 cost for repair work to put in post-tension steel rods and concrete encasement along the balance of the bulkhead for the treatment plant to protect it. And this plant was severely impacted by Hurricane Superstorm Sandy. The Hudson River rose over 20 feet with just the direction of Superstorm Sandy coming into New York Harbor. In essence, like a big cork, bottling up all the flow coming down the Hudson River, and the water rose dramatically and actually into the treatment plant. So getting this further made resilient is important. Last of the Westchester County projects, grid equipment at the treatment plant. It's a $6,836,056 project. They're going to be replacing influence sluice gates and actuators, grit removal, transfer, new primary clarifier sludge cyclone, and dewatering screw conveyor, as well as doing electrical instrumentation and structural upgrades to help protect the plant and remove grit from the primary sludge so the treatment plant process can operate effectively. The last of the short-term projects is the town of Westport in Essex County. It's a $3,148,395 short-term interest-free financing. They're doing inflow and infiltration in the collection system that's causing excessive flows to get to the treatment plant, and they're in excess of their existing flow limit. So they propose to line or replace certain gravity sewers and manholes that they've identified as having excessive flow entering the sewer system. And this is to help protect Lake Champlain. That's those are those 5 projects.
Thanks, Tim. Any comments, questions? Go ahead, Vita.
On the bulkhead project, Tim, is it all repair to the same specs that the bulkhead was, or is it improved in its height, or anything for subsequent types of climate change or rises in water level, or is it just the repair of that existing bulkhead?
It's the repair of the existing bulkhead. They're not building a higher wall around the plant, but they are. In fact, one of the projects that we're going to see as part of ID number 3, they're making the treatment plant itself more resilient. They've changed out doors within the treatment plant because Superstorm Sandy, when it rose above the ground surface at the Yonkers plant, it actually started impacting the plant, and the plant wasn't ready for that. Right? They didn't anticipate that this perfect storm was going to hit in the New York City area. So to raise that would be a much bigger project. So they've hardened the facility itself with doors and entryways.
Great answer. Thank you, Tim.
And I'll just mention, I know that it's part of a bigger problem. I know that the DEC has just really they've updated the flood maps, I know, in recent years, and this is a problem. Town of Lisle, places like that where these floods and storms are just going to be more of a problem. I guess I'm interested, really a DEC question, if they're looking at those new maps and some of these storms and just, let's say, anticipating, in specific areas where maybe an investment, instead of investing in the same location, would make more sense to, in some cases, either, protect, but also move. Just wondering, maybe Jeff knows something about that.
I don't have any specific information on that. I mean, I'll go check with our regional water folks. But I mean, likely, yes, there's a lot of planning grants and other availability of grant resources through the Water Quality Improvement Program and the ETF, where communities and municipalities are eligible to submit through the CFA. And depending on the budget, how that shakes out and where we go in the next fiscal year, there may be, additional opportunities for expanded grant program there.
Charlie, I could add something to that. It's not significant, but it may be significant down the road. So I believe you all know that partnership between DEC and EFC, they established an asset management program, which was piloted last year with 10 plus communities. And we've started discussing what would effectively be a phase 2 and how to grow it. My emphasis in our planning discussions for phase 2 was I believe we should be maximizing our leverage opportunities so there are more communities that could get these asset management plans together, which will identify the issues that we're talking about here, and B, I think it would provide an opportunity to get other dollars if we add an additional focus of resiliency. Dollars that we can't come up with, dollars that we can't add, but certainly dollars through the federal government, through Homeland Security, that if we make resiliency a focal point on the asset management program, we can help these communities start doing that. So when they come in and the asset management plan that they have in place is their catalyst for the job, in that plan will be the resiliency analysis, whether or not we should, in fact, stay here versus move up the hill. So I think we're starting to address it. I think it's critical. I don't like the notion of making investments that don't have significant value to them. And that value is added when we know that we can maximize the length of time that investment pays off for the community and for us. So we're beginning it, but I think it's talking more about resiliency at this point, which we're starting to.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, Joe. So, Tim, did you have something you wanted to add to?
Yeah, just, to both of those points from Jeff, yourself, and Joe, when we get engineering reports, we've asked as part of those reports that flood maps be overlaid on top of where the project site is and identify where the project is and that any improvements meet the flood requirements. So, there is no standard across the board. Everyone needs to be, DEC is not enforcing resiliency from a compliance standpoint. So I just want to put that out there. But we're attacking it project by project because we recognize that these are 30-year commitments to financing, and we have to look forward as we plan these things. To your point, Charlie, that if something is in harm's way, it should be evaluated as to whether it should remain there. Right, there was talk about moving the Binghamton Johnson City plant. After it flooded in 2006, it flooded again in 2011 with Tropical Storm Lake. But moving something like that is not a small undertaking, as I'm sure you're aware. So they built a higher flood wall and then a pump out system. Bay Park, similarly, they were impacted by Superstorm Sandy. They built a berm around the entire facility. So those projects are coming forward just incrementally. And I'll say treatment plants, right there, the whole wastewater system is designed around gravity. So you tend to have these facilities in low-lying areas for those reasons. So you don't have to pump. You can keep your operation costs down. You keep your carbon footprint down. Imagine if you had to pump all this wastewater and the energy costs associated with that. But the counter to that is you can't put it in harm's way. So you have to plan accordingly as you reconstruct these facilities.
Thank you. I remember, 11 years ago when the ERA was underway, we heard from Eileen Murphy a lot at DEC, really helpful to, connecting the needs with the federal government and all their resources. And again, I could see this being a real big topic, not just in New York, but hopefully we can, again, get ahead of it, make some smart investments, just like everybody has said. And appreciate your attention to it, and I think it's a great topic to focus on at our level, but also at the federal level. Thanks.
Great. Anything further on that? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Unanimous, none opposed. Resolution number 3.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation authorizing financial assistance payments to certain municipalities to fund eligible clean water projects from funds appropriated for the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act.
Okay. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Charlie.
Second.
I think that was Francis. Thank you, Francis. Tim again.
Thank you. Okay, before the board are two projects that are pursuing board approval for additional New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Grant funding authorization for a combined total of $1,236,710. First project, Town of Alston, which was the subject of ID number 1. It's a project to sewer and construct a pump station to convey wastewater from residential homes to the Sarasota County sewage treatment plant. This project was received a WEA grant back in 2015. There were cost increases, as Audra mentioned. They had not been fully authorized for their full grant amount by a very small amount of $8,361. So this act before the board will give them their maximum grant amount now that their project costs have come in higher. Second project is the fourth project we're talking about now for Westchester County. They're doing work at their secondary sludge handling upgrades. They're pursuing a $1,228,349 increase in their grant. Project is to make improvements to their sludge handling system that they have currently dissolved air flotation tanks to help them. One of the purposes of treatment plant is to remove organic material from wastewater. They're going to switch from their dissolved air flotation to gravity belt thickeners. They're also going to be making adjustments to their polymer feed system that helps the sludge come together and be more dense. So when they dewater it, they get more water out of it, and then they result in lower volume with a higher density, and shipping costs then get reduced. There's a video of this that I wish I had access for all of you. I'm happy to ship it around, of when the Hudson River rose. It actually blew the door open and into the polymer feed room at the Yonkers treatment plant, and we just basically had Hudson River water going in, and it caused a tremendous amount of damage. So part of this is also to repair that on a permanent basis.
Thanks, Tim. Questions, comments? Great. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Unanimous. Resolution number 4.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation amending the prior authorization for financial assistance to be provided by the corporation to certain recipients in connection with the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund.
Okay. Motion, please.
I can make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Roger. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Audra?
Okay, this is our modification on the drinking water side. We have one project today. It is the town of Stark in Herkimer County. They've been working for a while at upgrading their groundwater source, water treatment plant, transmission and distribution system. We need to go out one more year with this project. I don't know if you'll remember the details from the last time we saw this, but this project is replacing an original water system that was almost 100 years old, and they had done minimal upgrades. And then they had elevated sulfate levels. This project had a lot of unfortunate delays. They spent quite a lot of time looking for a water source, did not have a lot of luck. They had unforeseen water source issues, and at one point they increased the scope of the project to include groundwater source exploration and development to replace the springs. They had land acquisition issues for the storage tank site, and they had to work on an alternate site, which led to redesigning the tank. So they've been through quite a lot of challenges, but they are now nearing the finish line. They're working on installing the water meters for this year, and that should be done within the year extension that we're giving them. And then the project will be complete, and we can convert to long-term. So that's Stark.
Thank you. Anything further on that one? Great. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous? Resolution number 5.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation making certain determinations and authorizing certain actions in connection with the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund.
Motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Great, thank you. Rita and Charlie. David?
Hey, hello everyone. We have one project with this ID. This is for the town of Colchester in Delaware County, seeking a total of $411,008 in DWSRF interest-free loan and grant. This was for a long-term financing. The project was mainly a new cartridge filtration plant to filter the existing spring source, which several years ago was taken offline when it was determined to be under the influence of surface water and therefore in violation of the surface water treatment rule. At that time, the town abandoned that source and developed new groundwater sources to use. But in recent years, they determined that they needed additional water source capacity, so they decided to put a new filtration plant on the spring source to supplement their sources. So the project includes the cartridge filtration plant, new raw water storage tank and level monitoring system, new chemical feed system, a backup generator, and then they also will be replacing aged failing water meters. That's it for that one.
Thanks, Dave. Anything further on resolution number 5? Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Resolution number 6.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation authorizing financial assistance payments to certain municipalities to fund eligible drinking water projects from funds appropriated for the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act.
Okay. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make this motion.
Thank you, Vita.
I can second it.
Thank you, Roger. David again.
Okay, we have 3 projects that were awarded 2019 WIA grants. The town of Fishkill, Dutchess County, a $3 million grant. The village of Hamburg in Erie County, also a $3 million grant. And the city of Hudson in Columbia County with a grant of $321,600. The town of Fishkill project will replace over 20,000 linear feet of aged and undersized water mains in the Beacon Hills Water District. Also includes new hydrants and valves. The existing mains are very old and mostly galvanized cast iron and asbestos cement pipe. And this project will correct issues they've had with frequent breaks and significant leakage and inadequate pressures and fire flow. The next project is the village of Hamburg. This is for replacement of approximately 25,000 linear feet of water mains, also hydrants and valves and meters. This system also contains very aged and undersized mains throughout the system. These improvements will improve pressure and flows, and they are required as part of the plan to connect and consolidate into the Erie County Water Authority. So these requirements were they were required by the County Water Authority before the county would consolidate the village. And the next project is the City of Hudson, which is for replacement of approximately 850 linear feet of an aged 4-inch water main on Washington Street, and that's going to be replaced with a new 12-inch main, which is needed to replace this greater than 100-year-old 4-inch water main that is often experiences leakage and breaks. And the new 12-inch main will improve pressures and reduce water loss and improve fire flow capacity in that section of the city. And that's it.
Thank you, Dave. Any comments, questions on item number 6?
I was just gonna say that I was surprised that 4-inch was cast iron. I thought it was gonna be clay.
Mm-hmm.
That might be more than 100 years old if it was.
Yep.
Or wood in some cases.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous. Resolution number 7.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation approving the appointment of Chief Administrative Officer and Senior Vice President of the corporation.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Kate. Joe?
Again, thank you for the opportunity
I
to,
heard Mr. Corcoran make the motion. Do we have a second before we discuss?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Thank you, Vita. Okay. Now we can move to Joe.
great. No, just, we are very fortunate that Heather is willing to continue to serve the public and willing to do so here with us at EFC. She's already added value in a short time here, and for all the work that I'm willing to do, my experience with Heather serving the people of New York State, she always makes me better as a manager, as an executive, and giving her this opportunity and her willingness to take it will make us better as an overall team. So it's really one of the my best days so far.
Congratulations, Heather. Anything to add?
Heather, you good?
Oh, no, nothing for me. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Your job, and glad to have you on board.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to working with the board closely to
Thanks.
serve the people.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous. Okay. We have no new business, so the next board meeting before we adjourn is Thursday, April 8th at 11:30. We will have an audit committee meeting that day at 11. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Just before we adjourn, I actually just have a quick, it's not new business, but just a quick announcement. I had shared with Francis and Charlie, and they said maybe I should bring it up, and I will forward it to Secretary Kate Howard if anyone is interested in it. But it was just came out last week that the EPA announces availability of up to $6 million in annual environmental justice grants, and it goes into explaining those grants. And I thought it just might be of interest to the board members as well as EFC. So I will forward that to Kate for distribution and information for those that would like it.
Thank you, Vita. Great.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make
Anything
the
else?
motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Francis.
Second.
Thank you. We are adjourned.